I am here with Cameron. Cameron, I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name.
It's Schutza. It's exactly
Schutza.
the way it's spelled, and nobody can ever pronounce it correctly.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. Cameron, from so this is your first national touring show, right?
It's my first Broadway anything. Yeah.
Wow. How did you get into Broadway? Like that's
Uh,
a change. I was reading
I,
your
I,
bio.
yeah, no, it happened sort of abruptly. I was in Maine doing a production of Wagner's The Flying Dutchman, and I woke up one morning to an email from my manager that said, "And now for something completely different." And it was would Mr. Schutza be interested in putting some of this role on tape for consideration for the national tour? Let us know if you could get it in by this date or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, okay. So the day of the final dress rehearsal, I recorded bits of Old Deuteronomy with our assistant conductor and rehearsal, one of the pianists, not rehearsal pianists, for the Flying Dutchman, and then sent it in. And 2 days later, I woke up to an email from my manager saying, "Here you go." And so
That's
that's how I
amazing.
got into musical theater a couple of months ago.
Wow. Wow. So they reached out to you, or how, like, did
They
you have the interest?
a casting director reached out to my manager,
Wow.
and I said, "Do I want to do this?" And my manager is very funny. I've known her a long time. Said, "It's up to you, but I think it'd be a lot of fun."
Right, right, right. So going from so what do you think the biggest difference between with musical theater and what you were doing?
The rehearsal schedule is completely different. I mean, I'm used to at the most maybe like 2.5, 3 weeks of rehearsal before a show gets mounted, and then you only do, depending on where you are, it could be one performance, it could be 8 performances, but it won't be all in one week, it'll be spread out. And so I think that the rehearsal process and then the performance schedule is what's most different, because we're not in opera, you're not doing 8 shows a week. You're very rarely are you going to do that many shows in a 2 week period, and certainly not 2 shows on Saturday and 2 shows on Sunday.
So I was going to ask, like, normally you don't have this intensive of a schedule and performance schedule. How do you get yourself like ready for that? Like, how do you not kill your voice with by time Saturday comes?
It's interesting, and you sort of, for me at least, I've sort of learned as I've gone along in this process. I mean, we're at show, I think, 43 maybe today, or 44. It's been interesting to figure out, what you can do and what you can't do, and how much you can push yourself, and where you can sort of relax and coast through so that your voice stays as fresh as possible all the way through those 8 show weeks. I mean, we had a 10 show in a row split week. We had, our regular 8 shows in LA, and then got in a, or not in LA, yeah, in LA, and then went directly to Santa Barbara, where we went from checking into the hotel to a sound check to a performance.
Oh wow.
And that night, and then the next night before we went to Arizona. But it's taken some getting used to. It's not impossible. I wouldn't want to do it in some of the full length operas that I do. So
Yeah,
I'm glad
absolutely.
I'm doing it with this, and not the Ring cycle.
So tell me, what was the feeling when you got the email from your manager? I'm just going to step back for a quick second
Yeah,
as I thought of this while you were answering your other question. What was the feeling knowing that you just got casted for one of the most legendary shows that's
it
touring?
it was quite something. It was an interesting experience for me. I was very excited. I never saw Cats growing up. My parents saw the original Broadway production
Wow.
um in the 80s and 90s, and I had never seen it like that. I think I had only seen Phantom of the Opera live. Uh, it was really sort of an amazing experience, and to get it, and our director for the Dutchman, where I was when I got the job, has a student who was currently on Broadway in Phantom, and she was also telling me that this was definitely something I should do. It was going to be a great experience. You will learn a lot. But I was really excited about it. At first I thought, oh, do I really want to do this? Before I got the offer, and then the offer came in, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of people can't say that their first Broadway or musical theater
Yeah,
show is as big as Cats.
yeah.
That's crazy. Did so where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you think you'll stick to musical theater? Do you think you'll go back to
It was
what do you
interesting.
think?
It's interesting because I had this conversation with some colleagues and some opera colleagues and friends after I was in Maine, because I went from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon to do a different show. And I was talking to some of my colleagues there, and we were talking about how opera companies seem to sort of be programming some big production number musical theater pieces, like Chicago did Jesus Christ Superstar, and they just did Fiddler on the Roof, and Houston Grand Opera, I think, is doing Sound of Music. So that they're trying to cast these things, and they're not casting them, for the most part, some of them, with opera singers. They're going through musical theater booking agents. And it was this idea, this thought of, well, if you want to be able to jump back and forth between stuff like that, this is a one way to get your feet wet, and then you've had this experience so that you're more comfortable crossing back and forth between opera and musical theater.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me, if no one's ever seen Cats and they're kind of nervous to see it, how would you describe to them to come see it? Like to be able to come see a show like this. That's not a typical Broadway musical.
Yeah, it's true. There's not, it's sung through. There's not a lot of spoken dialogue. We do, there are two poems that we recite as a group in the show that are pretty much the only speaking that happens in the opera, in the show. And I wouldn't be scared to come see it. I think it's quite an amazing spectacle to witness. I mean, there's 22 of us on stage every night, and everybody is immensely talented, and the dancers are just incredible, and they do things that I sit there watching it on the tire, and I'm like, I can't do that. And it's really amazing, and everybody works really hard, and the set is incredible. Our lighting is great, our audio guy is amazing. Everything is like, it's pretty much a dream situation, from everybody being a strong member of the cast and crew, and visually it's really an amazing thing to see.
That's amazing. That's a really awesome thing.
22 adults literally flying across the stage doing,
Wow. Wow. I've seen the show before, seeing the costumes. How do you keep yourself cool under the lights, and it seems like it's kind of thick, like
the Old Deuteronomy costume is quite heavy. I would guess it's about 40 pounds.
ooh,
And it's dense. I do not have it on at the top of the show. At the top of the show, I'm another character, because everybody is in the opening two numbers. And so I'm not in that outfit. I'm in a much cooler set of, like, lycra pajamas, so that I, look like a younger cat. And then I change. And so I'm only in that costume for the last, maybe like 15 minutes of Act One. And then I get out of it during intermission, just so that I have, a moment. And then get back into it right before I go out on stage, so that I'm only in it, But it's hot, and it took some getting used to. But really, once you're used to it, you sort of figure out, if I move here, if I move there, there's a little bit of an air current, and it sort of cools you off a little. But when you're on stage and when you're moving around doing it, you don't notice it as much as if you stop moving and you're still, and then you're like, wow, I'm hot. But
right. Just gotta get used to it. Get
you
used
find those
to it, move on, right?
you find those air currents around the stage, and you stand in them.
Yeah, there you go. So tell me, can you describe your character without giving anything away, so that people know when they come to see the show and you're in the show what your
Yeah.
character is based on?
Old Deuteronomy he's the leader of this tribe of cats. He is maybe not the oldest one, but he's one of the oldest cats. They say in the song about him, they say that he's lived many lives in succession. So he's a cat that's maybe on his ninth life or his eighth life, or whatever you want to think it is, or maybe he's gone past that because he's the leader, and so he's whatever. But he is the one that the other cats look up to him. He makes the decision. I mean, they say in the beginning that when the Jellicle leader appears, he'll make the choice of which cat gets to cross over into the Heaviside layer and be reborn, which is their cat reincarnation. So this is the once a year when they meet to see who he chooses, and they're all going to present themselves in a way so that oh, here's what I've done, here's what I do, maybe I'd be a good choice. And so that's what I do.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really awesome. So let's get in, add a little bit of funniness to this.
Yeah.
Has anything happened? What's your most embarrassing piece that happened to you so far since joining Cats? Has anything like happened so far, or are we going to see something in Cleveland that?
I don't know. You never live theater. You never know.
Right.
I've I've switched some words around in a couple of places before, but nothing that unless you really really knew it, someone would notice. There's a couple of text changes from the original T.S. Eliot poems to the musical, and I when I was in the 5th grade, we had a poetry unit, and we read those poems. We had to recite them from memory, and so some of that's still in my head. So every now and then,
Wow.
I'll flip a word here and there. Haven't fallen off the tire yet. That's that would be a pretty embarrassing moment.
Right. Right. That's
But
awesome.
nothing crazy yet, I don't think. I mean, my birthday we had a 2-show day, and my birthday was on one of those, and everybody was sort of hilarious. And every now and then you'd walk around and interact with somebody, and when nobody was singing, it was just dance, you'd hear somebody would just try and sing like happy birthday really quietly while you're wandering around the stage. So
That's amazing.
nothing crazy's happened yet, but we're early days. We haven't
Right.
made it to show 50 yet, and there's
Right. And all right. Well, I think that's all I got on my end of things. We're looking forward to seeing you in here in Cleveland. It's
yeah,
going
it'll
to be
be great.
exciting. You're here for I think what 3 weeks? Yeah,
three
November 1st
weeks
through the
the
20th.
longest time I've been in Cleveland ever.
Well, there you go. You have to check out the Rock Hall, the
Oh yeah,
Rock
I'm
and Roll
sure
Hall of Fame.
definitely.
If you have a tour credential, take it
Uh-huh.
there and you get free admission.
Oh, cool. That's good.
So there's that, and then right down the street from Playhouse Square is like the best Mexican place you would find downtown. It's called Barrio.
Okay.
It's really good. So it's fun,
The
So
last time I was in Cleveland, I think was 1999 when I was doing uh college tours.
oh wow, I
Yeah.
did see that. I read the interview that you did with Playhouse Square
Yeah.
earlier, and saw that you were looking at the Cleveland Institute.
Yeah, I applied to Oberlin, and then we came back through and looked at interviewed at Case Western and the Cleveland Institute.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thanks so much for your time. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
We'll see you here a couple weeks. I'll be there. I think November 4th is the day
Great.
that they're inviting us all out. So it's gonna be exciting. Thanks so much,
See
Cameron.
you there.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.